Hello and welcome to another video. This time we're going to be talking about one of my favorite games of all time, Tomba. And as you can see, we're all decked out here with all of the Tomba merch that I could find. So let's jump right in. So I think this game came out in like 1997 or somewhere around there. I probably got it around 1999-ish. And I remember getting it at a Toys R Us, if you remember those. It's sad they're gone, but I remember I used to get a lot of my console games at Toys R Us back then, and I remember going and seeing this box up on the shelf, and it just really captured my imagination. This cover art was just so interesting to me at the time, because I've never really seen a lot of stuff like it. This was at a time when I didn't really know what like anime was, and my only interaction with like Japanese anime was through Dragon Ball Z, and it kind of reminded me a little bit of that, but I wasn't sure why. And for reference, I was probably about 12 at the time. And I just thought the cover was super interesting. It was really colorful. It looked really different from other games of the time, even. And I just really wanted to try it, just completely on a whim. No reviews. I didn't know anything about it. I just wanted to try it for the PlayStation. I had really been enjoying my time with my PS1. And a lot of games that I had been enjoying on there were things like Spyro and Crash Bandicoot. So like there were platformers and stuff, and I thought, hey, maybe this is sort of like that. So I got my mom to buy it for me and brought it home, and I was immediately in love with this game. I really do love like everything about it. It's one of my favorite games of all time, let alone one of my favorite 2D platformers. It's just a lot of fun. It's got a lot of style. It's got a really nice look. I feel like it still holds up today. Maybe that's nostalgia. It's fair. I don't know. But I really love the graphical style of the game. I love how colorful it is. I love how quirky the characters and the writing are in the game. It's really nice. And you play as Tomba, obviously, and you're pink-haired, sort of wild child protagonist, which in hindsight is kind of similar to Dragon Ball, like the premise of a sort of wild child interacting with society for the first time and going on this sort of grand adventure. And the premise of the game is that the Coma Pigs, which there's one right here, have stolen your grandfather's bracelet. So there's actually a lot of similarities to the original Dragon Ball. There was definitely some inspiration going on there. And in fact, in Tomba 2, they changed Tomba's hair to kind of look like a Super Saiyan. So, it's kind of fun. But yeah, I fell in love with this game. I thought it was one of the best games I'd ever played. And I still think that. I think it's fantastic. It saddens me to no end that there were only 2 games in the series, and that there really haven't been a lot of games like this. If you've never played it or heard of it, it's basically a Metroidvania. Although the words didn't exist at the time, I think. People didn't really call it that back then, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, it's a Metroidvania. It's a 2D world, and you're running around upgrading items and finding new stuff to do, and sort of backtracking. Once you get upgrades and once you find new items and new NPCs to help you, you're kind of doing stuff in the areas that you've already explored. And in my opinion, it's fantastic. Like, I think it's a really solid game, actually. I would go as far as to say that it's my favorite Metroidvania, but I have not played a ton of them. I'm not at all a genre connoisseur when it comes to that, so take that with a grain of salt, but I do think it's really solid. There's a decent amount of difficulty in there, and some of it just comes from how cryptic the game is. There's a lot of moments where you talk to somebody and they'll say something that is just really, really cryptic or unclear. Like, you can talk to one lady at one point and she's like, I lost something in the forest. Can you find it? And she doesn't tell you exactly where it is. The forest is a big place, and she doesn't tell you what it is. And so you just kind of have to figure it out. This is a game of trial and error. There's also several instances where it looks like maybe there's like a doorway there or something, but you can't interact with it or go through it. And these used to drive me crazy as a kid, and there are multiple ones like this. There's another instance, and this happens a ton, where like you go somewhere and you interact with a particular spot, and then it plays like a little full motion video cutscene, which was, really common in the PlayStation 1 era. They were doing that kind of stuff. And it just leaves you at that. And it's like, okay, what am I supposed to do next? How do I do more with this? There's one spot I remember where you grab a telescope and you put it in the sort of holder and you look through the telescope and it shows you an island, and that's it. And like you sort of, I think you pick up a quest at that point. They're called events in the game. They're not quests, and that's it. There's no other clues. There's no other context about what to do. So it's a really cryptic game. One that probably if you know everything, you can beat fairly quickly. But if you don't, it'll take you a long time to get through, especially if you're not using a guide. For me, I've played it several times, so I know a lot about sort of the basics of some stuff. But I also don't play it that often. So whenever I go back to it, I never remember every event and like what to do with every clue, which to me, that's a lot of fun because that way it feels like there's still some sense of discovery, even though I've already played the game several times. I really like that. And yeah, it's just a really quirky game. Like at one point you have to learn the language of the dwarves, and you do it by biting dwarves. So you like jump on their head and you bite them, and then you learn a part of their language, and then you can communicate with them later. It's just a really funny game. I really like it. A lot of fun characters, the monkey Charles, and I love the mouse village. There's like a village where there's a bunch of mice that drink wine. It's called Bacchus Village, and it's just a really quirky game. I really love it. And yeah, it's got some evil pigs. They're going around collecting gold, and your grandpa's bracelet was made out of gold, which is why they took it. And you have to find the sort of bosses of the evil pigs. And the way you do that is you need to find an evil pig bag that is of a particular color, and then you need to take that bag to a particular place that has the evil pig door of that same color, and then it'll open. But you don't know where the doors are. They're not visible unless you have the bag and you're standing right there. So you can't like see the door and then come back to it later. So you really have to like explore around. It's quite the sort of mazy gameplay where you're just going around a little bit just on a whim and hoping that you find something and hoping that you can solve some events and stuff. And yeah, it's just a really, really fun 2D action platformer. It's got this thing where like you've got like a foreground and a background, and you can kind of hop between them at certain places in the stage. And so there's like 2 layers of the 2D. And sometimes it's even got stuff where like you can rotate the camera, or rather the camera kind of rotates based on what direction you're moving in. So you can go around something like in the Haunted Mansion, you kind of go around it. So it does some really fun things with 3D, but it's basically a 2D platformer. And it's got some really cool moves. I remember like the grapple hook is pretty neat, and you've got like a boomerang that you can throw, or I forget what the main weapon is, but it's like a spiky ball with a chain on it. I forget what that's called, but I think it's called blackjack in the game. So you throw that, and so you can attack the pigs, but you can also jump on them. And there's just a lot of really cool parts of the game that I just really like. I don't know if it's the nostalgia or what. I think I have a lot of nostalgia for the graphics and the style of this era of gaming, especially on the PS1. There's a lot of scenes in the game that really stuck with me when I played them as a kid, and when I see them now, they still like churn up some emotions within me, you know? There's some spots in the game that are just really pretty and like really interesting, or really just evoke my imagination. And so yeah, I mean, this is one of my favorite games. I've played it several times. I will continue to play it. I love the game. I have the original version right here, but I also have the limited run games special edition of Tomba here. They re-released the game on Nintendo Switch and PC. I think it's also on PS4. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe PS5. I don't know. It's on Steam and it's on Switch. I got the Switch version here because I wanted like a physical release, mostly because I just don't know when else I'm going to get Tomba merch. I wouldn't call it quite like a hidden gem. I feel like enough people kind of know about it, but I don't know, maybe not. It is kind of niche though. And so when they announced this and it had all this stuff, you know, it's got the soundtrack and some figures, and they released some plushes and a steel case, and it's on Switch, and I was like, I have to have this. Like, I don't know when else anybody's going to make Tomba merchandise. And it's got this neat little strategy guide, which I'm going to show a little bit some footage of, because it is so nice. The art in here is really cool, and there's just a lot of really neat pictures and stuff. I probably wouldn't use it to play the game much because I like sort of discovering stuff on my own. But if I ever wanted to sort of learn stuff that maybe I don't know about the game or whatever, I would totally use it. And I've skimmed through it. It's really nice. This is probably my favorite part of the collector's edition. It's quite nice. But yeah, for the most part, I'm a little bit of a purist sometimes. I'm not huge into remasters or ports. Sometimes I feel like they're pretty good, but a lot of times remakes, remasters, ports, I usually just prefer the original version of the game. Now, this one, as far as I can tell, is pretty much the original version. It's got a couple of quality of life features, like being able to save anywhere and things like that. But I actually haven't played it a ton. I know there was a little bit of issues with the Switch 2 playing this game. I think that's been resolved, but I would double check that before you buy it if you're trying to play it on the Switch 2. I opened it up on my Switch 2 and it seemed to be working. I think that stuff has been resolved, but, tread with caution there. But yeah, I love this game. I'm so glad they re-released it so that there's another version that is available to play in case something bad happens to my original version. And yeah, so more people can check it out. I can make a video like this and I can actually point you guys to say, hey, you can go play this on Steam or on Switch. And that's awesome. I love it when old games are still available because it is basically the same game. I think they remastered the soundtrack, but I think you can switch back to the original soundtrack. And again, they added just a couple of extra features. But it's basically the same game. I like an enhanced port is what I would call it, I guess. But yeah, I love this game. I never get enough of it. I think it's one of my favorite 2D platformer games ever made. I love the quest system. I love the items. I love the characters and the quirkiness of the game. And I highly recommend it. If you can get it on Steam or Switch, I really recommend it. If you're on Switch 2, make sure you can confirm whether or not it's working well on Switch 2. But otherwise, the Steam and Switch versions, I think, work pretty well. And yeah, I can't recommend this game enough. If you're a fan of Metroidvanias, if you're a fan of quirky platformers, this is a great one. This is a great one. I really love it. Just know what you're getting into because it is fairly cryptic. There's a lot of just guesswork and wandering around aimlessly unless you're using a guide. And I'd recommend don't use a guide. Obviously, play however you want. Don't let me tell you how to play your games, but I recommend just going in and trying to figure stuff out and just playing and having patience with it. If that's not your style, cool. Use a guide for sure. I think there's probably a bunch online at this point. I don't think you need to get this. I don't think there was ever an official guide released, but yeah, great game. Check it out if you can. If you like this kind of game, I really recommend it. Yeah, let me know what you think. Have you played it? Do you like the sequel better? I don't like the sequel quite as much. I think it's good, but I prefer the original. I love the music. I love the characters. I love the quirkiness of the original. The second one's pretty good. I do like it. I think it's quite good, actually, but I prefer the original. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I really want to know. If you haven't played it, I suggest you check it out. Let me know if it interests you. I'd be really curious to see what people who haven't played the game might think of it, seeing the gameplay and hearing about it a little bit. But yeah, I appreciate you guys going on this sort of nostalgia journey with me with all this Tomba stuff. And as always, thanks for watching.